Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic, what is today? Wednesday? It's Wednesday, right? Yeah. Fantastic Wednesdays wherever you may be across the country or around the world. We've got a lot to dive into. Joe Biden's doctor takes the fifth rather than testify as to what he may have seen or not seen. Elon, I meant to mention this, has decided he's going to start a new political party. What do we think about this? The Epstein fallout continues. Who owns me? China? Israel? Russia? Your mom? I will analyze and discuss. Livvy Dunne can't own Babe Ruth's apartment. What is going on in this world? We will have some fun discussing all of that. Also, I read the book Original Sin. And I actually have some praise over that situation. But I want to start with what I think is by far the biggest story coming out of the day so far, and that is Joe Biden's doctor taking the Fifth Amendment instead of testifying. And I want to dive into this, but I want to make sure that I read this correctly because there is a statement up by James Comer, and it is fantastic, and I want to make sure that I hit this correctly. Also, by the way, California is being sued by the administration, by the Trump administration for refusing to accept refusing to accept women's sports only being played by women. This is from James Comer. So sorry, I was scrolling through trying to find this. This is what he tweeted a little bit earlier today. President Joe Biden's physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, just pled the fifth at his deposition before Congress today. It's now clear there was a conspiracy to cover up President Biden's cognitive decline after Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Biden's physician and family business associate, refused to answer any questions and chose to hide behind the Fifth Amendment. The American people demand transparency, but Dr. O'Connor would rather conceal the truth. Dr. O'Connor took the fifth when asked if he was told to lie about President Biden's health and whether he was fit to be president of the United States. Congress must assess legislative solutions to prevent such a cover-up from happening again. We will continue to interview more Biden White House aides to get the answers Americans deserve. This is significant, okay? You take the Fifth Amendment, and I am speaking as a lawyer. When you are concerned that you may criminally, basically light yourself on fire, criminally implicate yourself for wrongdoing. There is nothing that I could be questioned about under the sun, and I've testified at congressional hearings before, that I would need to take the Fifth Amendment for. Zero. I have committed no crimes. There is no possibility that I could be charged with any crime. And so if Congress wanted me to testify, I would raise my right hand and I would tell the truth. There's just nothing out there that I'm concerned about. But if you take the Fifth Amendment, it probably means that you have done something that might be of a criminal nature. Okay? What is it? I think there was a massive conspiracy to lie about Joe Biden's health. Everybody knew that this guy was not mentally or physically capable of being president of the United States. And they all conspired to try to cover up that fact. Now, there is a fine line here because all of us have HIPAA rights. Your doctor, my doctor, you probably don't want them to testify necessarily about every medical-related condition that you might have ever been treated for. I don't even know who my doctor is, so I'm not worried about that. Now, I'm 46, so I'm not super unhealthy. I've never had to be treated for anything that is any kind of significance. I don't even remember the last time. I guess I had kidney stones, and I thought I was going to die. I guess that's the only thing I've had in like the last 20 years that has been a health-related concern that I had, okay? So there is a difference between the doctor testifying to Joe Biden's health specifically, and the question of whether or not he was told that he needed to basically get in line and say that Biden had the mental and physical capacity to be president. I think there was a cover-up. I think we need to have primetime hearings, force ABC, NBC, CBS to cover them, use the January 6th hearings as a precedent for why they would have to hear them. I think the Biden cover-up is far more significant than anything that happened on January 6th. And I think we need to put everybody under oath. Now, there's two tracks here. There's the political and there's the legal. You can make decisions that are smart legally that look awful politically. Taking the fifth can be a very smart legal decision. It can also simultaneously be a destructive legal position. This is the line that Donald Trump was forced to walk throughout the course of his 2024 presidential campaign because they were trying to put him in prison for the rest of his life and bankrupt him and keep him busy in courtrooms rather than actually allowing him to compete on a fair playing field in the larger campaign. And so my analysis of this in general is we need to put in place the same game plan that Democrats put in place in 2022. Primetime hearings, I would hold them in August. I would call every single high prominent Biden aide, and I would put them under oath. I also think, and Senator Mike Lee from Utah just asked this question, I think it's a good one. Should the doctor be given immunity? Should other Biden aides be offered immunity to testify as to what they saw? I think yes. I think if you can flip one or two Biden aides and they agree to speak honestly about what they saw and the conspiracy of silence, I think it would be eye-opening and incredibly important and impactful for us to have that conversation as a nation. Because we can't ever allow this to happen before. We had a president who was not able to do the job, and he was protected for years, who was actually making the decisions. Again, I'm going to give you a little bit of praise here. I read the whole Original Sin book, and while I think Jake Tapper was a liar for much of his tenure as a CNN host, I actually think the book is worth reading because it is a historical record of lies documented in real time that I believe should serve as a cautionary tale for anyone who wants to ensure that the person who is in charge of the country is fit enough to be able to be president. It's a real conversation that we need to have, and it is an important one. And so to me, this is to me a no-brainer that should be addressed in a significant fashion and should be put on television in prime time so that no one out there can ignore it. Now, I thought, and I was wrong on this, I thought the January 6th primetime hearings in 2022 were a sham. I thought they revealed nothing new. I think they were actually beneficial to Democrats and helped to ensure that they maintained control of the United States Senate in the midterms, even though they lost the House. And if you care about the work that President Trump is doing, the midterm elections in 2026, a little bit over a year from now, are going to be profoundly important because Republicans need to maintain control of the House if they're going to allow the Trump agenda to be passed. If Democrats take back control of the House, I think taking back control of the Senate is unlikely, but I think they probably would be favored right now to take back control of the House. I think that would be very detrimental to Trump's ability to continue to make smart decisions as it pertains to the direction of the country. So this is a big story. I think it should be covered in a substantial fashion, I would encourage everybody out there to pay a great deal of attention to this, and to the extent that there are congressmen and their aides, senators and their aides that are watching this clip or will be watching this show, I really think primetime hearings is the answer. Okay, guys, will you text me again? YouTube, I love you, all right? I'm going to start trying to do every single show, respond to YouTube comments that you guys make. So put in YouTube questions that you would like to see me answer. I don't know if we have a graphic to put up these questions or not, but I know that these were sent to me, and I'm going to respond to them at the end of this show. And again, I'm pulling this up, and here are the questions that I'm going to hit in a moment. But I want to start here with Epstein, okay? Yesterday, I addressed Epstein in great detail. I want to build on what I said yesterday. Some of you may have seen me talking about it on the Clay and Buck show. There is nothing in the FBI or the Department of Justice's possession right now that allows anyone to be prosecuted for anything relating to Jeffrey Epstein. That is the truth. I understand that the fevered dreams of the internet, that there are lots of people out there that are engaged in believing this is not true. I am telling you, you can believe me or not believe me. You can believe Attorney General Pam Bondi. You can believe FBI Director Kash Patel. You can believe Deputy Director Dan Bongino, or you cannot. Pam Bondi came out and said all of the images that we have from Jeffrey Epstein of child porn were downloaded from the internet. I thought there must be some videos of him, some videos of the victims in the possession of the FBI. There are not. Do I think that there's probably a good chance that at some point in time all of that was destroyed and unrecoverable? Yes. Not by the FBI, not by the Department of Justice. I think that this was the first investigation that took place in Florida, the one where Epstein got a sweetheart punishment deal. I think there was a desire and an intention to avoid creating a huge mountain surrounding Epstein. And I just don't think that there is evidence that would allow anybody to be charged based on what has been publicly said and based on what I have heard. I don't think it's true. Now, you can be like, oh, my goodness, Clay, you're owned by Israel. You're owned by China. You're owned by Russia. What did they pay me? I would like to know because I haven't gotten anything from any country ever. All that has ever happened to me from a country is they take my money, and that's the United States. They take basically 40% of everything that I make. So I wish a country would pay me instead of taking all my money. But I've never gotten any dollar. Not from your mom either, or your grandma. But the evidence to me is that there's no one else to prosecute in the Epstein case based on the evidence that is in possession of the FBI and the Department of Justice. Let me just be logical here with you for a moment. What would be the greatest thing for Dan Bongino, for Kash Patel, for Pam Bondi, and for Donald Trump? It would be to suddenly be able to prosecute Bill Clinton or Bill Gates or insert George Soros, whoever it is, for criminal behavior related to Jeffrey Epstein would be the greatest moment of their political careers. They would be heroes, the likes of which we have never seen before on the right in America. In order for them to be choosing based on objects in their possession not to prosecute anyone, you would have to believe that they are choosing, instead of being lionized by all of the people who are currently ripping them to shreds, that they are voluntarily choosing to be ripped to shreds in the public social media content instead of prosecuting pedophiles. Does that seem likely to you? It seems improbable to me. This is what I try to do. Logically apply facts to situation. Now, do I think it is likely that Jeffrey Epstein was in some way an intelligence asset? Yes. Of a foreign country, probably even more likely than the United States, although I think the United States would have been aware of those kind of things. Do I think that Prince Andrew, I think it's Prince Andrew, right, was the only celebrity, the only famous rich guy to sleep with some of the women that were surrounding Epstein? No. I think there were other rich, famous guys that were engaged in behavior that may well have been criminal, but I don't think there's evidence of it. I think it's circumstantial. People say, what about the list? What about a lot of the list stuff is just like Jeffrey Epstein's Rolodex. I have 95% of the people that are prominent in sports and politics that I talk about, certainly on the Republican side. Almost everybody in sports that I talk about, I have them in my phone right now. I can talk to them. I can text with them. So a lot of you have friends and family in your phones. The fact that you have the ability to contact somebody who may be in a prominent position doesn't mean that you're intimately friends with them or aware of everything that's going on. A lot of people that are connected to Jeffrey Epstein are connected because of a paper trail. They may have flown on his jet. They may have gone to dinners with him. They may have gone and sat on benefits with him. I mean, this guy donated hundreds of millions of dollars to charity. He attended charity events everywhere. He was desperate to meet rich and famous people. Do I think he engaged in forms of blackmail? Yes. There's evidence of this that have been written about with Bill Gates. I think all of those things are true. Do I think that Donald Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi are protecting Jeffrey Epstein and the people who committed crimes related to him with clear evidence of crimes having been committed? No, it doesn't make any sense at all that they would do that. Politically, the best thing that could happen for Donald Trump is he could actually deliver, and some of the bad guys that have been bugaboos on the right as bad guys on the left, boogeymen, he would be able to deliver their scalps. It'd be the best thing ever. They don't have that option to do it. I'm just telling you. So that is, you can agree or disagree with me. You can think that I'm doing it because Israel owns me or China owns me or I don't know, Russia owns me, because your mom or your grandma own me. You can believe anything you want. I'm just telling you, I don't think it's my job to tell you things that are always supremely popular. People are going to mentions. People are angry at me. They want to know if my wife was Jewish. Want to know if I was Jewish. There's a lot of crazy fever dreams in the conspiracy world. I'm just telling you, there's nothing there. Now, comments. Army says, these are, I'm not going to read like all the letters and numbers and everything else. Army says, we're complaining because of Pam Bondi's own words. She said the list is on my desk, so talk to her. I've never met Pam Bondi. And so I can't speak specifically. I think we're putting up some of your comments. So by the way, go into the comments, ask questions. I'm not choosing the questions, just so you know. And by the way, guys, pick funny questions, pick whatever you do. We'll try to respond to YouTube questions every day on this program. And I won't really know them in advance. I'm just going to respond in real time. I think Pam Bondi has not done a great job communicating. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General. Yesterday, she said tens of thousands of these images came off the internet. That was child porn images. That was what was in the possession of Jeffrey Epstein. She said that things were on her desk. She later tried to clarify by saying the files were on her desk. And I've been told it's just updates written about what were in the files that were actually on her desk. I think she has exaggerated oftentimes on interviews to say things that she thinks the public wants to hear. And then she has overpromised and underdelivered. I think in general, it's better to underpromise and overdeliver. And so to the extent that you want to criticize someone, I think Attorney General Bondi on this issue has not been fabulous when it comes to communication. And that's a huge part of the job. And I think she has made the situation tougher for Trump, tougher for Kash, tougher for Bongino than it would be if she had spoken better. And so I don't disagree. I mean, with that comment that we just played, I think that Pam Bondi has made this situation tougher for her bosses. Explain why this is Agent All-Star 7. Explain why Ghislaine Maxwell is locked up if there's no list. She's locked up because she was convicted of basically being the madam for Jeffrey Epstein and for engaging in sex trafficking with some of the women that she pursued. And I'm simplifying this. This is not a court of law. Jeffrey Epstein would use Ghislaine Maxwell as basically his madam to approach attractive women that he was interested in. Some of those women, he would just be there are reports. Like, he would just be riding down the road and he would see a good-looking girl and he would be like, hey, Ghislaine Maxwell, see if you can get her to start coming and giving me massages. See if you can get her to come to our mansion, and we're going to groom these girls to eventually engage in sexual behavior with us. Sometimes she would engage in, I believe the reports are, threesomes. So she engaged in criminal behavior. I mean, look, Jeffrey Epstein was charged with many different acts of criminality, and he would have been prosecuted if he didn't die. Now, the evidence, I think, is awful that Epstein died by killing himself, right? If you were designing a situation, guard falls asleep, cameras in that area aren't working, it's supposed to be a suicide, what's the words when they like a suicide preventative area? Like, you're supposed to basically be on suicide watch, meaning you're supposed to have people watching you to make sure that you don't commit suicide. And so I think if you look at this, the fact that there weren't cameras on him, the fact that the guard fell asleep in the middle of the night, the fact that there are camera discrepancies that they shared from outside, all of that doesn't look good, right? The question is it criminal conspiracy or incompetence? I'm inclined, I've kind of gone back and forth on this, to be fair. As more evidence comes out, it looks more and more supremely incompetent than conspiracy laden. I think you can argue either way, whether Epstein killed himself or somebody else was involved in killing him. The evidence is such a mess that, frankly, it doesn't speak to me of conspiracy as much as it does incompetence. But she was convicted of running women for Epstein. Sex trafficking. She should be in prison. Epstein should be in prison. So I think that matters. Huge fan, Clay. This is Don Zolo. Huge fan of Clay. What the F is he babbling about age of consent? What does it matter if it's legal in Georgia but not Tennessee? We're not trying to prosecute him. It sounds like he's making an argument no one is asking for as a distraction. No, I think this matters. Bigger picture, when you say pedophile, there is a big difference between, the point I'm making is there is a big difference between a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old. All of you know this, or a 17-year-old. A 16-year-old, the age of consent in Alabama is 16. I don't think you're a pedophile if you're sleeping with a woman who is 16, 17, or 18 years old. Okay? You might say, hey, you shouldn't do it. But I don't think anybody out there would be like, hey, a 19-year-old should go to prison if he sleeps with a 16-year-old. I don't think most of you would say that. Okay? 19-year-old boy sleeps with a 16-year-old girl or vice versa. I don't want the state prosecuting that as a criminal offense. Okay? 19-year-old sleeps with a 9-year-old? I think the 19-year-old should go to prison for a very long time. My point here is I've got a 17-year-old and I've got a 10-year-old. They're like two different species. My 10-year-old is a little kid. My 17-year-old, he'll be 18 in January. He's getting close to being a grown adult. Doesn't mean that he has the mental capacity of a fully grown adult when it comes to making rational choices, and that certainly is worth contemplating. But the situation here, I haven't seen any stories about Jeffrey Epstein bringing around 9-year-old girls. Now, it sounds like, based on the evidence the FBI has, this guy's into child porn. That's awful. You should go to prison for a long time. And if you want to argue with me, hey, what do you think about the government's ability to prosecute pedophilia? I think it's actually not occurring enough. And by the way, I think there's a lot of big tech companies that are engaging in behavior that is indefensible. I read a big article. I think it was a Wall Street Journal. There's evidently a huge market for moms who will put up like their 11-year-old girls who are on dance teams and have private subscription pages. And everybody subscribing to these things is grown men. And the moms are like, hey, we're going to continue to post all these photos and I'm going to make all this money. Like, I think there should be bigger investigations into the sharing of photos. And I mean, this is sick stuff. So I'm not diminishing that. I am saying that when you look at this evidence, the evidence of what people have engaged in can be a crime in some states and not in other states. And it's like you can't have a conversation of a nuanced nature about what is and what is not criminal. And so that's my reason for this. Like, there is a big difference between my 17-year-old is basically a grown adult. My 10-year-old's a kid. And it's as if, oh, they're under 18. Like, okay, well, let's actually dive into some of these details. I didn't know until yesterday that Epstein had all of this crazy child porn in his possession. That's what the FBI has, but it's not him. It's not him. It's actually all this creepy child porn stuff that's just out there on the internet. And people are like, why isn't it somebody getting prosecuted? I agree. But that's different. Like, that's just something that's circulating out there. We need to figure out who took the photos, who made the videos, who are the kids that are in these, and we need to arrest these people, lock them up, and throw away the key. But that's very different than saying, oh, there's clear evidence that the FBI and the Department of Justice has of other individuals having committed crimes other than Jeffrey Epstein. I just think there's a lot of not understanding what the information is, and I'm trying to fill it in. And by the way, it would be far easier for me. I'd be more popular if I just came out and said, oh, there's a huge conspiracy. Everybody is covering up for all these rich, powerful guys. They have all this video. They have all this footage. They're not prosecuting Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and whoever else it is because they're rich and powerful and the fix is in and this is unacceptable. That stuff would all go viral. It would be way more popular than what I'm telling you. If anything, I'm saying the less salacious, what I believe is truth based on the evidence, which is that stuff isn't here. And there is no grand conspiracy from Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to hide things. The evidence isn't there to prosecute anybody else. And I get that that's unfulfilling to people because people are out there and they're like, oh, this is an outrage. And where everybody's the conspiracy is way more sexy. People click on it way more because it validates their worldview. I'm here to tell you not every conspiracy is true. A lot of conspiracy theories are. But what you have to be careful of is not buying every single conspiracy out there. Because eventually you go over the crazy waterfall. You hop on the crazy train and you ride it everywhere. Sometimes the government lies. Sometimes the government tells the truth. That's the reality. Here, I think the government is telling the truth. I think the government lied about COVID shots. I think the government lied about censorship. But I don't think the government's lying about everything. And I think the evidence actually supports everything that I am telling you guys. Okay. Elon has started a new political party, or he says he's going to start a new political party. What's the impact going to be? Negligible is my answer. I think Elon Musk has the money that is significant enough that if he goes into competitive races and if he spends lots of money there, he could make it more likely that Democrats win elections. I don't think he can make it more likely that his preferred candidates win elections. And so I understand the appeal of third party a lot. I've voted third party before. I've told you guys, I voted for libertarian candidates before because I thought they were the better option. But I do it in a state where the Libertarian Party is never going to win. And I think the Libertarian Party, Green Party, if you vote for a third party in a competitive state, in my opinion, you're wasting your vote because your candidate has no chance to win. And all you're doing is making the worst candidate probably more likely to win in your state. So I think Elon's going to look at this, and I think the rationality of his decision-making is going to come to bear because you have no chance of winning as a third party in any state. All you have the chance of doing as a third party in any state, and this is why Democrats tried to keep RFK Jr. on the ballot, is taking away votes from the Republican Party. I don't think Democrats are going to leave the Democrat Party. If you voted for Kamala Harris, you're not going to leave and suddenly support a candidate that Elon Musk puts forward. I do think that some people who voted Trump might be willing to vote for a third party. I mean, a lot of people would have voted for RFK Jr. That's why Trump entered into an alliance with him and ultimately put him in his cabinet, because he recognized that there was a segment of the population that liked some of the things RFK Jr. was saying about the health universe, the Maha moms, and was not likely to vote Democrat because of all the COVID lies they have been told, but was willing to go down the path with RFK Jr. I think RFK Jr. would have hurt Trump more than he would have hurt Biden or Kamala. And so I don't think it was coincidental that they made the decision to actually go out and try to get RFK Jr. kept on the ballots. And I think that's what the impact of Elon Musk's party would be. Ron DeSantis laid out something that I thought was brilliant. If you really believe that government spending is out of control, and I do, if you ask me right now, Clay, what is your number one concern in America today? It is our $38 trillion debt. Number one. That doesn't mean that I don't think issues 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are important. That's why I said, hey, best we're going to get is the big, beautiful bill. There isn't the political will to address the thing that I care about the most. I think the thing that Elon cares about the most right now is the debt. If you do, then you should, instead of starting a third political party, this is what Ron DeSantis said, you should push aggressively to try to get a balanced budget amendment to the United States federal government that would require that the government can't spend more money than it brings in. That's what should happen. We should have a balanced budget amendment, subject to certain limitations. If we're in World War II, I don't want us to have to not spend money to build more tanks, right? Or jets or whatever else it might be. There can be exception in times of national emergency as voted by Congress. But in general, we should have a balanced budget. States are required to have balanced budgets. Why should the federal government not be required to have a balanced budget? And so Elon could spend the money to get more states to ratify balanced budget amendment to put this in the mix for making it a amendment to the United States Constitution, which would require that Congress not spend more money than it brings in. I'm in favor of that. And I think that would actually do a better job of addressing the concerns that Elon has going forward, and it's what I would suggest makes sense. Okay, a couple of other things. We have a video of Attorney General Pam Bondi and Education Secretary Linda McMahon, and they are announcing, as they did earlier today, something that I agree with, that I can't believe is necessary, but is, that the United States Department of Justice is suing California because California is refusing to comply with federal law and is continuing to allow men who identify as women to compete in women's sports. This is that. Watch.
Over the past several weeks, the Department of Education has notified the Department of Education in California, as well as the California Interscholastic Federation, that they were in violation of Title IX. They were allowing men to compete in women's sports. Now, this is after years of their being in violation of Title IX. We informed them that if they did not change, that we were going to refer these cases to the Department of Justice, and we have done exactly that.
Thank you, Secretary McMahon, for all of your hard work. And today, the Department of Justice has filed a lawsuit against California Department of Education and the governing body for women's sports in California. We've made it very clear, only women in women's sports under Title IX. An example in California, a boy who was in track and field. He would have lost every race. Yet in women's sports, he won over 36 medals. Those medals should be returned to the women, as well as no boys will be allowed in women's locker rooms. No longer. We have sued Maine. We're in litigation with Minnesota. We've sent multiple letters. And if you do not comply, you're next. The Department of Education and the Department of Justice, we will protect girls in girls' sports.
This is significant. Last week, the Supreme Court announced that in October, it would be hearing basically a challenge, I believe it was to Idaho and West Virginia law on whether birth certificates, that is what you are listed as your sex on your birth, male or female, should dictate what teams you can play on. I think that this is going to have to go, sadly, to the Supreme Court. And the question is going to be, does federal law govern when it comes to Title IX, equal protection, and women's athletics? And I believe the Supreme Court is going to rule 6-3, at least, maybe more, but certainly at least 6-3, based on the decision when it came to medication in Skermeti versus Tennessee. I think they're going to follow that same precedent, be 6-3, maybe more than 6-3, saying men can't play in women's sports. And then there's going to be an interesting question. I'm giving you, flag this. We'll share it in a couple of years when it comes down. Then there's going to be an interesting decision. Is the Democrat Party going to take the off-ramp of the Crazy Town Express given to them by the Supreme Court and no longer argue that men should be able to be in women's sports and say, oh, we disagree with the Supreme Court decision, but they're doing it in the same way that Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Bahrain and the UAE all reacted to the bombing of Iran? They put out statements saying they disagree when quietly they're nodding their head in agreement. That gives them from the Supreme Court an off-ramp to Crazy Town, and they can continue to say, oh, we disagree with it, but it's Supreme Court of the land, Donald Trump, MAGA, these guys are awful, all that, okay? Or are they going to double and triple down on Crazy Town? I don't know. Because doubling or tripling down would be, hey, in California, we don't put the sex of babies on birth certificates anymore. Therefore, we can't be expected to comply with a federal law that requires kids compete on the gender on their birth certificates. Or we put X on. I don't know where this, I'm just saying, I don't know how crazy they're going to be when the Supreme Court comes down and says this is the law of the land. I will point out California is in an unbelievable position. They're trying to appeal to male voters who they are losing overwhelmingly. I think Gavin Newsom gets it. They're trying to ban fantasy sports in the state while simultaneously telling you that men should be able to compete in women's sports. Is there any man in California who believes that fantasy sports should be banned and also that men should be able to compete in women's sports? I'm not sure that man in California exists, in all honesty. Yes, fantasy sports should be banned. And by the way, I read the opinion from the California AG, which to his credit, Gavin Newsom said he doesn't agree with, which is kind of funny. You don't agree with your own attorney general. But Gavin Newsom said he didn't agree with it. They could shut down your fantasy sports league in California if you're playing for money based on the opinion that came down from the California Attorney General. That is what they said. That is what the logic of the law would allow. You could be raided by the state of California if you're playing in, I don't know, $100 a year buy-in. Your NCAA tournament bracket could lead to somebody banging on your door, arresting you in the state of California. Simultaneously, the state of California is arguing men should be able to compete against women. It's one of the craziest things I've seen. We have pictures. Speaking of elite athleticism, one of my Little League baseball teammates announced for Congress yesterday in the 6th Congressional District of Tennessee, Johnny Garrett, who I grew up with. I've known him my entire life. This is his picture of us. This is like 1988, 1989, Goodlettsville, Tennessee, Little League All-Star team. We came in second in the state of Tennessee in the Dixie Youth Baseball League. Goodlettsville, by the way, still really good at baseball. Has been in the Little League World Series a bunch. That was us sitting there. Somebody said in the comments, the testosterone level is super low in this photo. I swear to God, somebody said it. We were 9. We're not East Germans. I would submit to you that if the testosterone level in your 9-year-old's Little League game is at a high level, there's something really crazy going on in that game. I coach 9 or 10-year-olds. If your 9 or 10-year-old baseball team has testosterone levels at a high level, it must be like East Germany, 1988 in your Little League. Yes, you nailed it. Testosterone levels were very low on the Goodlettsville, Tennessee All-Star team when we were 10U. Very low, 10U testosterone level. Couple of other things. What are the other? Livvy Dunne. People are like, I don't know why you're. Look, this video, when I talk about Livvy Dunne's video, millions of people are going to watch this video because everybody's going to be like, I don't know why people care about Livvy Dunne. She's super hot, and it doesn't matter what she does. Everybody pays attention. This is the reality. And she's a former LSU gymnast. She's trying to buy, it feels like a Mad Lib here. She's trying to buy Babe Ruth's old apartment in New York City. She has to be approved by a co-op board. And Jesse Kelly just tweeted me this. I'm sorry, do we live in America still? Jesse Kelly's got a great show, a radio show. The co-op board voted against her. Now look, I don't know who's on this co-op board. There must be a lot of non-heterosexual men on this co-op board because of all the people that you could have as a neighbor in a New York City high-end apartment, I don't think Livvy Dunne would be the person that I was like, I can't live next. She can't live on my floor. This had to be no heterosexual men on this co-op board or a lot of men afraid to vote for this because their wives might murder them. But here is Livvy Dunne trying to buy Babe Ruth's apartment. She got shot down. Watch.
Guys, I'm so upset. So a few months ago, I decided I was going to make my first real estate purchase, which is so exciting, and I was going to get an apartment in New York City. But the gag was, it was Babe Ruth's apartment. So naturally, I'm telling everybody, I'm excited. I was going to buy it, and I was going to pay with cash. I wanted this apartment bad. It got to the point where the realtor was so confident. Paul and I went. I got an interior designer because I didn't want to bring my college furniture to Babe Ruth's apartment. That would be criminal. Then the week that I'm supposed to get my keys to my brand new apartment, I get a call. The co-op board denied me. So pretty much the people in the building voted to not have me live there, which is fine. Honestly, it wasn't financial. It could have been, for all I know, they could have been Alabama fans and I went to LSU. I have no clue. Maybe they didn't want a public figure living there, but I was literally supposed to get the keys, and that week they denied me. So it was just iconic. It was so cool that it was Babe Ruth's apartment. But yeah, but long story short, don't try to live in a co-op. You might get denied and you won't get Babe Ruth's apartment.
New York City taking a lot of L's here. I'm sorry. You're trying to address a communist who wasn't even American, trying to elect a communist who wasn't even an American, who claimed that he was black African-American, Zohran Mandami. And You won't even let a hot chick live next to you. This decision-making in New York City, I cannot believe and endorse in any way. I like New York. I wouldn't live there because the taxes are too high. But if I did live there, I would have your back, Livvy Dunne. I would have allowed you to live in my building. And I think any red-blooded heterosexual American male who is watching this right now agrees with me. Shame on New York City. This is what happens. You elect a communist as your Democrat mayor nominee, and next thing you know, hot chicks can't even buy apartments in New York City anymore. I'm telling you, it's the end times. The apocalypse is near. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. Hop into the comments on YouTube, and I will have them pretty much every day during the summer when probably not a ton is going on. I will have them grab 3 or 4 comments, be funny, be interesting, give me any kind of questions you may have, and I will address them every show. We'll do a comment response. So hop in the comments. You may see your comment up during the show. Go click subscribe. Watch the show on YouTube. Growing like gangbusters all over the place, but I love you on YouTube. I'm going to be responding to some of your questions in the comments. So click like, click subscribe, go hop in the comments, load them up, be funny, be interesting, ask smart, original, funny, and authentic questions, and you may live forever in infamy on the internet and fame and glory as I respond to you live on the show. All right. Love all you guys. I will see you tomorrow. This has been OutKick Show.